So we're back, session 42. We're now in the midst of the good stuff, Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, and we're going to kind of take our time to try to go over it as thoroughly in some way as possible, given this platform and my intentions. I again refer you to my website, Bible Explainer. If you add Chavez, my last name, you'll probably find it right away in Google or some other browser. I have 70 pages on Mark in English and Spanish, two different versions, written, I think, around 2008. And it's a very sort of newer approach. I mean, in substance, the same as my dissertation, but, 9 years after, I have a different approach that might be interesting, and it's more synthetic than the dissertation. It's about 70 pages each. So we were talking about this chapter where Jesus instructs two of his disciples to go and get a donkey, really. A polon would be a colt, but I think we're talking about a donkey there. And we made reference to the Oracle of Judah and to Professor Blenkinsop's article with that title, and how this Judah, who is the ruler of Israel, who is the head of the Messianic tribe, he ties his colt to the vine and his pure-bred jackass to the choicest vine. So this would be step parallelism, a repetition with an upping of the ante, so to speak. And the only Bible that uses the translation pure-bred jackass, or maybe just ass, is the New American Bible, the Catholic Bible read in the dictionary. But only in Genesis 49, they chose to not do it. Whoever did, Zechariah, chose to translate it differently. And this is the result of research such as the man I mentioned yesterday, and I now have his last name, Kenneth C. Way, as in way of salvation or something. And he's explored the donkey thoroughly. And this double donkey language in Genesis 49 is a way of really indicating a purebred male jackass, not infertile. There's actually, you can Google a cross Saint-André, a St. Andrew's cross donkey. In fact, I have a picture of it that I could show you, that I found in the middle of France. They have like a cross on the back. Very interesting. And it's a purebred jackass. And I guess they maybe castrate them or something to avoid procreation or whatever. But nevertheless, it's a very fine ancient animal, even mentioned in the Ugaritic texts before Israel came onto the land. So we're not talking just about a symbol of humility, but about a very ancient animal. And it's not like really a reference to two animals, even though the literal language is that. But it's a reference to, I think, in agreement with the researcher and writer Kenneth Way, a purebred jackass. And so we mentioned that, Matthew's version of this actually has two animals, and they put their mantles on him, and he sat on them, which, you could really look at as Matthew's way of literally fulfilling these scriptures by Jesus riding on two animals, which is like a circus act. I don't think that was the case. Mark leaves it as a colt, just a new sort of virgin, never ridden before animal, fit for Jesus. But we said that Torah is oftentimes recycled, reused by the prophets, then fulfilled in the New Testament. The recycling, of course, is the famous Zechariah 9 passage, which reads, and I'm again, kind of translating here from Spanish: exult freely, daughter of Zion, cry for joy, daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes to you. Tzaddik, or righteous and victorious, which is almost the equivalent of Tzaddik. Humble and mounted on an ass, on a colt, the foal of an ass. So there you have the double donkey language, which I think is a way of hyperlinking to Genesis 49. Judah, the Messiah, here clearly talk of a king. So you have here, and he will, quash war weapons and horses, and the bow, and he will proclaim peace to the nations, and his dominion will be from sea to sea, and from the river, capital R, river, until the ends of the earth. Followed by very interesting language, normally not read, but as far as you, by the blood of your covenant. Gamate bedam berita, beritha, beriti. You have this incredible passage in Zechariah 9, clearly messianic, and despite what we've mentioned to be Mark's allergy to Jesus in a clearly political role, his crucifixion is already clear enough politically. Nevertheless, he, of course, has this, I think, hard rock history tradition that Jesus reenacted a messianic, or an entry into Jerusalem, maybe for the first time. If we follow Mark, he's got a one-time trip to Jerusalem to die. And a clear signal that he considers himself to be the Messiah. As much as Mark has an allergy to Jesus as king. Remember that it is the sons of Zebedee who want to sit next to him in his glory, not his kingdom, like Matthew. And here Mark collects this tradition that Jesus sits on the colt. They threw their cloaks on it. He sat on it, and many spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut from the fields. And those who went before and those who followed were shouting, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest. So there you have kind of like stepping away from the kingdom of Jesus, or the Messiah. But so he uses kind of like a euphemism, the kingdom of our father David. So this definitely waters down the explicitness without in any way skirting the actual historical kernel, and very important, that Jesus entered Jerusalem as the Messiah of Zechariah, who dictates peace, and the Messiah of the tribe of Judah of Genesis 49. And we were talking about the fact that the article by Blenkinsop stresses that from a literary point of view, a lot of space is given here to tying and untying. And that is all in order to make more clear the fact that there is a reference not only to Zechariah, but also to Genesis 49, the initial Torah text recycled by Zechariah and then fulfilled by Jesus. He ties his, donkey and the son of the donkey, etc. And I've called this, I came up with the expression, the unleashing of the eschatological events. So this is what really starts the problem with Jesus as far as the authorities are concerned. In Mark, you have very little, regarding, the Pharisees trying to shush Jesus, his disciples, and you don't have the same text as in Matthew. Let's look at what Luke has. And in Luke, you have some of the Pharisees who were among the people said, "A master, reproach your disciples." And Jesus responds, "I tell you that if these be quiet, these stones will cry out." The most, I think, historically probably accurate rendition, if you will, or at least the version that I think most clearly points to the political character of this is once again that eagle John, who's supposed to be flying high with theology and all that, and he zaps us all the time, I've said it before, with hard, very hard rock history type stuff, even though he may be embellishing things. For example, Jesus comes to be arrested not only by the temple police, but by a cohort of Roman soldiers, which is a lot of soldiers, at least 400, maybe 600. And they all drop to the ground when he says, "I am." Clearly, that is theological elaboration. But the fact that he's mentioning that the Romans were already interested in Jesus at the time of his very arrest, when he's, I think, in hiding in this Mount of Olives. That's why you need a betrayer. Tell us exactly where he goes at night, because the Gospels say he would retreat at night to the Mount of Olives. Well, the Gospel of John actually does quote the language about your king. So does Matthew. But it talks about palm fronds, which, according to the New Jerome Biblical Commentary, would have had to have been imported. This is out of Maccabees. This is political liberation language for sure. So John's mention of that. And of course, he's talking about a huge crowd, not just many or his disciples, but he's talking about a huge crowd, enough to freak out the Romans and the rulers. John has already talked about the Sanhedrin, or a Sanhedrin type meeting where it said it's better for one man to die than for the Romans to come in and destroy our nation and our temple. So John is laying it out very clearly. Jesus is seen as a threat. He may have been pointed out as a threat by the Sadducees, or the priests who were in cahoots with the Romans. Pilate kept the high priest's garments, etc. They were cooperating with the Romans, especially the Sadducees, to keep order as part of this modus vivendi that goes back even to the Persian period. The Persian authorities subsidized the priests, gave them tax breaks. You can read this in Ezra and Nehemiah. Reconstructed the temple with funds, etc., and made the Torah arise as a compromise document between factions and says, this is your constitution, and we'll uphold it, and you better, tell everybody to fall in line into what the Persian policies are. We want everybody happy and functioning smoothly and paying their taxes. That's what we really want. But you priests don't have to pay the taxes. So I'm going to go a little over 15 like I'm doing these days. But in John, you clearly have, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, and the King of Israel, which is already going back to the first chapter of John. This particular expression, King of Israel, is even broader, I think, than King of the Jews. So this is the King of the 12 tribes, etc. Actually, it's an echo also of Genesis 49. 12 tribes, not just tribe of Judah. And I was going to say something about what Mark is here referencing, just to finish up a little bit. We'll have to continue with this. But Psalm 118, which is read in the Easter celebrations. From you, Yahweh, comes salvation. Hoshiana, please save us. Yahweh, give us success. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. From the house of Yahweh, we bless you. Yahweh is our God. He enlightens us. And then it says here something about close up the procession with palm fronds in your hands, interwoven foliage. Avot, the Hebrew plural there, until the horns of the altar, so that this would be a victory psalm for the Feast of Booths, which is a significant feast of final, liberation too, and freedom. And David, if he's the author of this, whoever it is, some king, maybe, he says that I was surrounded by Gentiles, but I cut them off in the name of Yahweh. They surrounded me. They assaulted me. In the name of Yahweh, I cut them off. They surrounded me like bees. This is Holy Land conquest language. They were flaming like fire in the bushes, but in the name of Yahweh, I cut them off. More, which I think is where circumcision comes from in Judaism. So this is a victory of the king passage, and certainly Mark very sort of veiled in a veiled manner, maybe for his Roman audience. They're already having enough problems following a crucified Messiah. He is alluding to the psalm, which by the could have been exactly what the people were shouting. So we'll stop there and continue.